Reddit confessions are horrifying. From confessing to cheating, to admitting to something that would put you in prison, there is no limit to what people have done. My name is Imbakshan, and today we're going to be looking at some of Reddit's most insane confessions. And on top of that, we're going to be reading some confessions that you guys sent in. If you guys want to send in a confession or a story, my email will be in the description. But before we get started, I want to remind you guys to subscribe because I make a lot of confession videos and I think you guys will enjoy them. With that being said, let's get right into the first confession. I'm a sick, twisted father. I became intimately aroused by my young daughter. I want to first off say that I know I'm sick. I know I'm mental and deranged, and I am a disgusting man who probably does not deserve to have a family. I want to fix myself and I want to not have this problem, but it's like an unwelcome disease in my head that I can't control. I'm 42 and I'm married to the most amazing woman in the world. I'm so lucky to have her. I know if she found out what was going on in my head, she would leave me in an instant. Here's the story of what happened. Our house has 2 bathrooms upstairs. One is upstairs and has 2 doors, one adjacent to the parents' bedroom and the other adjacent to the corridor. The other one is adjacent to my daughter's bedroom, and the only way you can access it is through her bedroom. Normally my wife and I use the one next to our bedroom, and my daughter uses the other one for herself. However, for a period, the shower in our bathroom was broken and unusable. For this period, my wife and I were using the other bathroom for showering whenever we needed to. It was no big deal, it just meant that we would have to wait for someone else to finish first. I returned home one day, and it was a really hot day on Friday afternoon. I had had a particularly long day at work, with a lot of trouble and stress, and had afterwards gone for a 2-hour jog before jogging back home. I got home in the afternoon really tired, drenched in sweat, my body's aching, really tense, yearning for release and relaxation. My daughter, who's very young, was upstairs in her bathroom having a shower, so I thought I'd wait for her to finish. I didn't know if she knew I had come home yet or not. She probably hadn't heard. My wife was at home and she knew. After some time, I walked past the corridor and hadn't heard any water sounds for some time, so I figured she would have finished the shower. I wouldn't just barge in the shower. It had a lock on the door in any case, and I would see if she was in her bedroom, and if not, call to see if she was in the shower before proceeding into the bathroom. I opened the door into her bedroom, and sure enough, she was there, but she was lying asleep, unclothed on the bed. I couldn't even describe what went through my mind. Me, the 42-year-old father of this very young girl. She was just lying there immaculately, her eyes closed, her breathing raising and lowering, her chest peacefully like an angel. Her body still glistened from the shower, her hair was still wet, and her skin was so white and smooth. I stood there staring at my own daughter for at least 10 minutes, while every perverse, intimate thought entered my head. It's like my mind could not see that she was my daughter. I had every intimate urge towards her. I wanted to kiss her, lick her, make love with this beautiful creature in front of me. I just stood there for 10 minutes, a gargled mess like my brain had fallen out of my body. Eventually, I got a hold of myself and proceeded into the shower. There, I unloaded all my intimate thoughts. I self-pleasured myself like I haven't done in a long time. I don't even normally self-pleasure. I haven't done so in weeks. But now, I self-pleasured like I've never done before, all while imagining what it would be like to make love with my daughter. When I came out of the shower, she was still there, but was now awake and had covered herself under the sheets. She asked me when I'd come home. I told her a few minutes ago. It was befuddling how I was struggling to talk to my own daughter. My thoughts were still on her body and my sickening thoughts. She must have noticed something unusual in my expression and asked me what was wrong. I told her I just had a bad day at work. Then she told me to remember the things I used to say to her when she was younger and would have a bad day at school, to make her feel better. I feel sick. I'm a disgusting human. I don't even know what to call myself for having these thoughts. I know it's wrong and I really wish I didn't have them. I know I need help probably. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can even turn to anyone or speak to anyone about this. If anyone ever found out, especially my wife, if they had an inkling of what had gone on in my head, my life would be over. I don't deserve to be a father. I don't deserve to be a husband. This confession honestly left me speechless, and it's just so disgusting. This is honestly one of the worst confessions I've ever read. Just all those thoughts he had about his own daughter, it just makes me sick. I starved a helpless animal till it wasn't alive. When I was a kid, I went through several pet rats. I guess I wasn't ready for them because I often got tired of them and didn't like the responsibility. A series of them got raised and then given away, escaped, etc. My experience with one pet though changed my view of myself forever and still haunts me to this day. Sometimes it makes me wonder if there's something deeply wrong with me that I should be afraid of or guard against somehow. Sometimes it makes me fear that someday I will just lose it somehow and never come back. I don't know, maybe 12. I had a rat I was tired of, and I guess I was going through some depression. The rat was bothering me with its noise at night, and I felt guilty for not spending time with it and leaving it in a cage. Then I took its running wheel out. Then I, for some reason, stopped feeding it. First because I couldn't get the initiative to do even the most simple task. Depression can work that way. And then eventually because I was frightened by what the rat must be going through. I even remember worrying that it was getting so hungry it would attack me when I opened the cage. I became pretty much terrified to even look at it or think about what I was doing to it. I never really connected with the idea of torture, and I gained no pleasure from it. I could never, still cannot, understand how a human could take pleasure in hurting an animal. But I basically reached a point where I realized that it was starving to death, and that it completely depended on me to keep it alive, that I had no choice in this matter, and still I chose to continue not feeding it and to let it starve to death. I will always remember the desperate scurrying sounds it made, trying to get out or to get my attention, and the last nights of its life while I lay in bed and somehow forced myself to ignore it. Finally, it died. It took longer than I imagined. It felt like it took forever. Might have been 2 weeks. But after it died, I discovered I could not bring myself to take care of the situation I now faced. I realized I would have to tell my parents that it died, and feared that my face would betray something and they would realize I had done it somehow. I just couldn't face the reality of what I'd done, and lying to someone else about it would have made me face it. So I left the rat there in its cage for another week. I still remember the way it looked. It wasn't curled up or lying on its side or anything like an animal that had passed away, like you would normally see. It was stretched out like a board, with its front legs stretched out forward and its back ones stretched out backwards, like it had been tortured on the rack or like a little Superman. I can only imagine the pain of starving to death. Finally, about a week after it died, some family friends were over and the kid wanted to play with the rat. I had no out, so I had to take her to my room and then discover that the rat had died and hope this entire family didn't think I was a loser because I couldn't keep a pet alive or God forbid realize what I'd done. Reading this now, I wonder if it sounds melodramatic to others. It doesn't to me. What I did was a horrible thing. I don't care about the level of value you assign to a particular animal or another. I'm not sure it was really better than deliberately torturing an animal to death, either for the animal or for what it says about what is inside me. And it haunts me to this day. I always wish I could tell people, without telling this story, to be careful what you do. At that age, I really didn't understand how things you do can haunt you for the rest of your life, and you should sometimes do or not do things for that fact alone. My daughter's friend was passed out drunk and I felt her up. Throwaway for obvious reasons. My daughter Irene, 21, invited her friend Emily, 22F, to a party at her house that my wife and I had for the holidays. By 1 a.m., the last guest left, my wife went to bed drunk, and I was cleaning up the house. Irene and Emily had drank a lot and were in the basement watching TV when Irene called me down. Emily was passed out on the bathroom floor, having puked several times. We carried Emily to the couch and then Irene went into the bathroom and I heard her puking too. Just great. I helped Irene upstairs to her bedroom where she flopped on the bed and fell asleep almost instantly. When I went back down to the basement, Emily was back on the bathroom floor. She missed the toilet and was laying in her own vomit. I was at a loss for what to do. I obviously couldn't leave her there in her vomit, but my wife and daughter were of no use to me. I got Emily into the show stall, no tub, and tugged and with a lot of difficulty pulled off her shirt and pants and then cleaned her up with a washcloth. She was a mess. I half carried her back to the couch and left her laying in her wet bra and panties while I, now quite out of breath, went up to find clothes for her. I came back with some of my daughter's gym shorts and a t-shirt. As I looked at Emily and tried to figure out the best way to dress her, I suddenly couldn't resist the temptation and I touched her breasts. The idea to do it hit me and an instant later I was doing it, like no filter. And I felt them quite a bit, over and under the bra. I got hard. Emily stirred and I snapped to reality, backing out the room. She didn't wake and I went back in and dressed her, this time having the urge to stroke her butt but fighting it off. Then I went to bed. The next morning all the ladies slept late and Emily left the house after having breakfast. She and Irene were too embarrassed about being drunk and getting sick. Otherwise, no weird vibes. I feel so confused about what I did. I'm not that kind of creep, but the urge to touch her was really overwhelming. It was like a right and wrong switch in my head got jammed and I did what I totally knew was wrong. Like assault wrong. Bad. I know what I did was horrible and I do feel genuine remorse, but I'm afraid that if the situation happened again, I wouldn't be able to resist temptation. What the hell is wrong with me? Should I seek help? One user replies to the post saying, "Everything about this is just disgusting. You should be protecting them from predators not being one. I would strongly suggest you no longer allow yourself to be alone with your daughter's friends, sober or drunk." And I agree with this reply 100%. I think it's really disgusting and I just don't understand how somebody could do that. I feel like he was already pushing the line by just changing her, since it's not even his own daughter. It's just really weird and very disgusting. Years ago, a friend slept over and I took inappropriate pictures of her while she was sleeping. I won't specify how long ago this was or the ages at the time, but it's been quite a while and I don't talk to this friend anymore. As far as I know, she never knew what I did and still doesn't. To clarify, I am a guy. She didn't normally sleep over at my place, but in this particular instance, she came over pretty late at night to talk about something we were mutually stressing over. She just ended up sleeping over because she was too tired to go home. I let her have my bed and went to sleep on the couch, and she specifically warned me not to come in without knocking because she was going to take her bra off. She was wearing a tank top and she said her breasts basically always fall out when she sleeps in tank tops, so I'd likely see her unclothed if I did. I just laughed about it and promised not to, but pretty much immediately I had the intrusive thought that that would actually be kind of awesome. I had always thought she was attractive despite our friendship being platonic. I'm a breast guy through and through, and I had immediately noticed hers a lot over the years. They weren't huge or anything, big but more than the average kind of big, you know? It's not like I constantly obsess over them or even thought about them often, but I definitely had the thought that I wouldn't mind seeing them. But it was initially just an intrusive thought. Obviously, I wasn't actually going to walk in like that, but as I laid on the couch, I couldn't really fall asleep. I was tossing and turning, and I thought self-pleasuring might help me calm my nerves and fall asleep, which is something I often did. But in retrospect, that was a bad idea. My brain shifted into that irrational horny state as I was looking for something to watch on my phone. That intrusive thought just kept coming back and suddenly nothing online was exciting enough. I kept telling myself it wasn't an option, it was wrong. She probably wouldn't actually have anything showing anyway. She'd wake up the second I walked in, etc. But eventually, curiosity and pre-nut irrationality got the better of me and I decided I would just peek a little. And if I actually saw something I wasn't supposed to, I'd only look for a second and leave immediately. I quietly walked to my room, opened the door slowly, and looked in. My initial reaction was a mix of nerves and excitement, as it looked like I was actually seeing what I wanted. But my eyes adjusted to the room's lighting, and it wasn't what I initially thought. Her top was still covering her pretty well, but you could definitely see some side breasts, and strap on one side was kind of out of place. It was like a mix of disappointment that I didn't get to see anything and a relief that I hadn't crossed the line. But the disappointment started overpowering the relief aspect, unfortunately. I just kind of stood there and looked at her for a minute. She was sleeping really soundly, and even when I made some noise, she didn't seem to react. She had never slept over before, so I had no idea if she was a heavy sleeper, so I was really being risky with everything I was doing. I can't really explain how I came to this decision, but after looking for a little while, I just walked over and turned the lamp on my nightstand on. She still wasn't reacting to anything, and I somehow convinced myself it wouldn't be that bad if I had just a quick look. The cover wasn't over her shoulders and it was pretty light, so I felt confident about moving it, which I did. And then I slowly pulled her top up until I could see her breast. No reaction. I just looked for what felt like forever before putting her shirt back down. But then I wanted more. But I was simultaneously freaked out about what I was doing. I knew I had already crossed the line, but it's like I was convincing myself to ignore it. Finally, I pulled her shirt up again, took my phone out, took a few pictures of her breast, and put the shirt back down. I remember I specifically didn't include her face because I thought that was too far, as if the whole thing wasn't too far as it is. But I took multiple angles, close-ups, etc. I turned the lamp off, snuck out, went to the bathroom and self-pleasured to the pictures. Then the guilt/shame hit, so I immediately deleted them and went to sleep, tossing and turning over what I did until I eventually drifted off. The next morning was awkward. She didn't do or say anything to indicate she had any idea what I did, and I obviously didn't want to give her any hint about it. We stayed friends for a while after that, but not for long. I felt a lot of guilt about my actions and talked to her less and less. We drifted apart, only talked a few more times over the years. It's been about 5 years since I've heard from her at all now. I've never done anything like this, and I've gone to therapy to address things like adult video addiction, over-sexualizing women, lack of impulse control, etc. I would never do anything like this today, but I have trouble forgiving myself for doing it to begin with. I don't even date anymore because I'm scared of my behavior around women, and don't think anyone deserves that if I do act on impulse again. I secretly destroyed my best friend's marriage and reputation. He was my best friend since college, the guy who stood by me through my worst years, lent me money, and helped me get my first real job. I was supposed to be his ride or die. Instead, I became the shadow that ruined his life. It started with jealousy. He had the perfect wife, the big promotion, and that easy confidence I never had. So I began chipping away at it all. I flirted with his wife when he wasn't around, planting small doubts about him. I sent anonymous messages to her from burner accounts with evidence of him talking to other women, so real most of it made up by me. I encouraged him to drink more during our nights out, then casually mentioned his drinking problem to his boss and in-laws. When cracks appeared in the marriage, I was the one comforting both of them, playing mediator while making sure the fights got worse. I slept with his wife twice, not because I loved her, but because I could. Afterward, I convinced her it was a mistake and that she should try to save the marriage while I kept feeding her reasons why he was the problem. He lost his job, the divorce was brutal. He got limited custody of his kids and spiraled into depression. I was there through all of it, helping him move, listening to him cry, being the only real friend he had left. All while knowing every bit of his pain was my doing. Years later, he's still struggling, barely seeing his children and working a dead-end job. His ex-wife is with someone new. And I continue playing the supportive role, even attending his kids' birthdays like nothing happened. The guilt eats at me constantly. I see the trust in his eyes when he thanks me, and it feels like knives. I ruined a good man and his family out of pure envy and pettiness. I stole years of his happiness and replaced them with broken pieces. I still can't believe that I did that, and the guilt grows more unbearable as the months and years go by. I really want to tell him, I even feel like I have to tell him, but I don't know if I'll ever tell him. The confession would destroy what's left of our friendship, and honestly, I'm too much of a coward. But carrying this alone is slowly killing me inside. For the past months, I've been in a constant battle against my own thoughts. My own mind is telling me that someone like me is undeserving of life and that I should just give up and end it all, but I have a family and I don't want to ruin more lives. These words are my only release. I betrayed the one person who truly had my back, and I'll never be able to undo the damage. And that will be the end of today's video. If you guys enjoyed this one, let me know down in the comments. I love hearing all your guys' thoughts of what you like and what you want to see improve. You guys will also have to let me know what kind of confessions that you like hearing the most, because I know there's a lot of different ones and different themes, so I'm just curious what you guys think. I love all of you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.